say something, Bill?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chairman Hudson, and honored city council members. And thank you for these 90 seconds. On January 25th, in a 6-1 decision of this council, you approved Cotton Days for April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That happens to be Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter morning. On one hand, I get, after these past 11 months, I get the need for a feel-good activity. And I completely understand the importance of Cotton Days. If you remember, Paul Preschel was a member of my congregation. So I completely understand Cotton Days. But on the other hand, it is 3 of the most holy days of the church calendar: Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter morning. And so I respectfully ask you to please reconsider holding Cotton Days on those 3 days. And once again, Vice Chairman Hudson.
And we just voted to pursue it. It's not saying that we're going to do it. We just set that date to possibly get it done. But I appreciate your comments, and we'll take that into consideration.
Well, the good news and bad news of that is I thank you for reconsideration. The bad news is I worked hard on my speech. So, I sure would, sir. Thank you very much for this time. Gracious Lord, we give you thanks for today, especially for the good we were permitted to give and to receive. The day is now past, and we commit it to you. We entrust to you the night and rest in your peace. Lord, keep this nation under your care. Bless our president, vice president, governor, and mayor, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to others. Dear Lord, bless all who serve to protect us, especially our fire and police forces and all first responders, and especially our military personnel. Last but not least, dear Lord, we give thanks that through the diverse gifts of the members of this town council, you provide for the ongoing care of Coolidge. Cause them to recognize and to act on every opportunity for fruitful service. Send your Spirit upon them, that everything they think, say, and do may be for the common good of Coolidge, its people, and the glory of your name. Through Jesus we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Deanna, will you call roll, please?
Councilmember Eric Daniels.
Present.
Councilmember Tina Kaufman.
Present.
Acting Mayor Steve Hudson.
Here.
Mayor John Thompson. Councilmember Jackie Henry.
Here.
Councilmember Ben Navarro.
Here.
And Councilmember Tatiana Murrieta. Here.
Thank you, Shanna. We have a quorum. I'd just like to take a minute right now to recognize Representative Kavanaugh, who's he's our new representative and lives in Coolidge. So happy to have you here, sir, tonight. And also, before I open up the public hearing, I think, Richard, you would like something to say, please?
Most of you know me and stuff. My name is Richard Shar. About a month and a half ago, I had one of my customers at Tag's Cafe passed out at the table. Mr. Marietta grabbed the gentleman and stuff, kept him from falling out of the chair. What he was having was a massive heart attack. The gentleman did not make it. He coded three times over to the hospital. His brother came in about 2.5 weeks later and said, my brother didn't make it. I apologized for it, and I said, I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, the response time from the EMTs, fire department, and the police, excellent. I got to brag on them. They were there in a heartbeat. They did really well. Another time, the other time I missed the last council meeting. I'll come up here to brag on the police department, taking down those 2 prisoners that was running across it wasn't a cotton field, it was a wheat field. That was pretty cool. I got to tell you, man, that takedown was so doggone good. My hat's off to the police department. I've been telling everybody that comes in my cafe about it. I said, look it up on the internet. It's there. You'll love it. Pretty much, that's about all I got to say.
Thank you very much, Richard, and appreciate your comments. And we do have an excellent police department and fire department, and it's nice to have a citizen come up and mention that. So thank you, Richard.
I got pretty proud of them.
Good. So are we.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Okay, we're opening up a public hearing to receive public comments on portions of land located in section 11, 14, 23, and 26, Township 7 South, Range 8 East of the Gila and Salt River Base, and Meridian of Pinal County, Arizona, known as the USA CAP annexation. Gilbert?
Vice Mayor Hudson, council members, as you know, we've been busy out at the IPAS, which is with Nikola Motors, is going vertical now, and they're building a lot right in this area. That's where Nikola is. So we've had a lot of inquiries on this property. It's 2,700 acres of industrial property on rail, so it's one of the only few that large in the state of Arizona, so you can imagine we have a lot of activity and inquiries into this, but we also saw the opportunity to expand this area to the east, and so this annexation answers that. As you can see, some parts of it are already there. This will be the Vale Road will be the north-south freeway in the future if everything stays the way it is. Pinal County purchased some right away there, so it only makes sense that we expand and have the opportunity to go to the east. So this is what this annexation is, just that opportunity. So this is a public hearing for that. We've recorded a blank petition, and it's approximately 1,013 acres more or less with Pinal County on February 1st, 2021. It's about 30 parcels. So this is the maximum size of the annexation. It could always be reduced down as we go forward and see who wants to come in. And so this is a public hearing for that. And an infrastructure services plan for this annexation would be prepared and introduced prior to the action to annex. So that's just the other step that would take place. And we're here to answer any questions you may have. Tim and I are here.
Yeah, Gilbert, how many property owners is there?
I believe, Tim, it's 16, correct? 16, there's 30 properties, actual parcels, but there's 16 property owners. Some own more than one piece of land.
And anybody opposed to it?
Not at this point.
This is an open public hearing. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this? Council people, any questions?
How many miles of road would we be taking in, paved and unpaved, do you know?
Councilmember Navarro, no roads would be actually brought in on this property. I don't believe that. You know, eventually the future north-south freeway will be there. Vale Road's there, but it's dirt right now at this point. So it's just maintained by Pinal Land Holdings, I believe, and the farmer that's farming that right now. Okay.
Yes. I would just like to say, I know the city of Coolidge is very supportive of the north-south freeway, and this is the prime opportunity for us to get that annexed into the city.
Thank you.
Kaufman and Marietta, any questions, concerns?
No.
I'm good.
No other discussion, and we move out of the public hearing and go into the regular business.
Thank you.
Consent agenda items. Is there any council person that'd like to pull a consent agenda item off?
I'd like to pull item 10.
Item 10. Anybody else? Okay. Consent items. Number 5, consider approval of reappointing Daniela Tucker to serve on the Park and Recreation Advisory Board for another 2-year term. Item 6, consider approval of submitting a grant application to the SAFER grant program for fiscal year 2020, staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. Item 7, consider approving entering into a cooperative purchasing agreement between the City of Coolidge and Holbrook Asphalt, LLC, utilizing the City of Mesa agreement to purchase high-density material bond asphalt for improvements to the 5th Street between Arizona Boulevard and Bartlett Road at a cost not to exceed $50,000 per year plus applicable tax, and authorizing the mayor to execute the necessary documents. Item 8 is consider approval of entering into a cooperative purchasing agreement based on Pinal County IFB PC-180123, and sequential renewals for supply, delivery, and applications of pavement maintenance materials between the City of Coolidge and Western Emulsion, Inc., and sequential renewals for improvements to Fifth Street between Arizona Boulevard and Bartlett at a cost not to exceed $50,000 fiscal year 2021 street work program. Item 9 is consider approval entering into a cooperative purchase agreement based on the Maricopa County contract, IFB 171088C, and renewals for aggregate materials between the City of Coolidge and Calmat Company, DBA Vulcan Material Company, renewals in the amount not to exceed $30,000 plus applicable taxes to the improvements to the Fifth Street between Arizona Boulevard and Bartlett Road. And number 11 is consider approval of the claims for the month of January 2021. What's the council's pleasure?
Vice Mayor, I move to approve items number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11 as read.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Regular business items. Consider approval of entering into an intergovernmental agreement between Pinal County and the City of Coolidge for participation in Pinal County Special Weapons and Tactics SWAT Team.
10.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot all about it. Councilman Navarro, you asked for the number 10 to be pulled?
Yes, so number 10, the long and skinny of it is we're going to be auctioning off our trash vehicles, our pickup trucks, and everything that do with trash. The whole reason I'm sitting up here is because of a spirited conversation in the backyard about trash. And now that I've been a little educated on it, I know a little more about it. But getting rid of our trash trucks pretty much says that we're going to stay in a contract. I know some people are not happy with the RAD contract and pickup and everything. And getting rid of these trucks is saying that we're going to stay in contract. So basically what I wanted to know is roughly, if we decided to keep these trucks or go with the refurbished truck or buy a new truck, how many people would we have to hire? Because I know those people that we had running the trash program were absorbed into the streets department since we contracted out. So we would have to rehire several people to run the vehicles. And would there be an increase? Would it in our favor, or actually, would there be an increase in fees if we started running our own trash service again? Or are we better off staying in contract with RAD?
Mr. Vice Mayor, Councilmember Navarro, I think that's a really broad question you're asking.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would prefer to consider everything surplus tonight except anything located to the trash vehicles and have us come back later and talk about all the trash vehicles, because that's the only thing that's agendized tonight is to declare them surplus. And you're asking a very broad question about trash pickup, which I think is a very fair question. I just think, as we sit here tonight, it's only agendized to talk about declaring them surplus. So if you're saying, hey, you're not prepared to declare them surplus yet, and you want to make a motion to declare everything surplus except the trash vehicles, and have us come back on a later date to present those questions where I think Matt could have some time to investigate it further, we could do that if that's what you prefer.
Sure, that's not a problem. More time the merrier. Then I guess I'll make that motion then that we...
No.
Go ahead.
Since you pulled it. I just kind of wanted to ask about, I know that the last item, the chipper, do we have another chipper that we're using that when they take, ooh, my mic thing fell off, where they take the trees out and you chip them? Do we have something else, or we're just getting out of that?
Mr. Vice Mayor and Madam Council Member and Mr. Councilman Navarro, if I may, I can address both of your questions, if I may, Mr. Vice Mayor. Councilman Navarro, to answer your question, just because we are declaring the garbage truck surplus does not necessarily mean that we are hard and fast going to stay under contract for the solid waste collection program. The reason why we are declaring these surplus is because of the age of the trucks, the engine within those trucks, even if they were brand new, the engine is, There was a period of about 3 years where the engines were not performing up to specs. It just happened that those were the 3 years that we got that we got for those garbage trucks. And so even if we were to go back into the solid waste collection business, which again, like I said, we haven't ruled out, but we would have to get new trucks anyway that are more efficient, that are better, that perform better, that have a better service expectation than the ones that are in there now. And to that point, to follow into the next question that you had, was the operators that we had were actually absorbed into the solid waste department, and then they have since retired. So 3 years ago, we had 5 solid waste operators that we haven't replaced. We have 2 now, and then we just have a part-time that we have. And so if we were to get back into the solid waste into the solid waste collection business, we would have to have at least 3 additional staff to run the garbage trucks. Now, to the point of what would we need for the garbage trucks, we've actually done some research with that to refurbish some garbage trucks that have the better engine, the better motor. It's to the tune of $844,000 to refurbish 3 of them, which is a whole lot better than $800,000 for a brand new truck. And we've already discussed that internally with my vehicle maintenance foreman, Mr. Zach Tate, myself, and the mayor. We met with him 2 weeks ago to discuss that with him. And then, Madam Vice Mayor, to your point about the chipper, yes, we do have another chipper that's in use with the Parks and Rec Department. This is one that if I recall correctly, is about 20 years old. It's just more of a maintenance nightmare than it's worth, and so we want to declare that surplus and maybe list that one as on a public auction to see if there's any resale value to it or salvage value from it. But yes, we do have a chipper that's currently in use by the Parks and Rec Department.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we still had one.
And Mr. Councilman Navarro, did I answer all of your questions?
Yes, for the most part. That answers the questions about the surplus. I think maybe down the line we'll have a conversation about what it would take to number-wise to figure out if we got back into the solid waste, what it would cost and would it be worth it. But that's another discussion for another time. It's a long discussion. So for now, that satisfies my question.
And the short answer to that, it would be to refurbish 3 garbage trucks. It would be $844,000 plus the staff to do that, plus the staff to operate those on a week-to-week. Yeah. Now, as far as the rates, would it go up or down? That's one that I agree with you as a discussion for another point in time.
Okay. But yes, thank you. That satisfies my question.
Any other council member have any questions, concerns? Mr. Council's pleasure.
I make a motion we move forward with item 10 as read.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to number 12 that I jumped ahead of. Consider approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between Pinal County and the City of Coolidge for participation in Pinal County Special Weapons and Task SWAT.
Good evening, Vice Mayor.
Evening, Chief.
How you doing? It's staff's recommendations you approve this evening before you as a consideration for an IGA between the City of Coolidge and Pinal County for SWAT services to our community. You may or may not know Pinal County is like the only regional team in the area. It is our fail-safe for officers on the road. If we didn't have that option, we'd have to ask for DPS, which either come out of Phoenix or Tucson, depending on their availability. I'm happy to answer any questions. This was originally going to be on consent. It just didn't get moved. It was on business.
Any council member have any questions or concerns about this agenda item?
No, I don't have any concerns. I think any additional training our PD could get is only for the benefit.
Absolutely.
It's the council's pleasure.
Vice Mayor, I move to approve item number 12 as read.
I second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 13 is consider award of bid to RPT Farms Mark Bowe to lease 322.7 acres of city-owned farmland surrounding the wastewater treatment plant. And before we discuss this, there's a Mr. Bartlett. If you give us your name and address, please.
Bruce Bartlett, P.O. Box 293 in Coolidge, Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen of the council and staff, I'm here on behalf of my farming operation, which I've been in an existing lease with the city of Coolidge for 20 years. And when it started way back, the only land that the city owned at the time was under Bright Village and that development park. And then after it got started, the city purchased 2 more farms. We went through a development process. I've worked very closely with the city, and on my proposal sheet, I wasn't quite detailed, and I'm sure you've all read that. But I put 20 years investment. I lasered it, poured ditches, took out fences, farmyards, equipment yards, pig pens, did a tremendous amount of cleanup, and the city of Coolidge has benefited from it greatly over the years. They've had a trouble-free, affluent operation, and it was a learning curve, but I've learned. I believe I'm the most qualified person to be farming the ground because I have a deep knowledge of the affluent, the pumps, irrigation districts. I know what lands have CAP allocation, what lands don't, and also, I've been working with the University of Arizona, Dr. McCloskey. We got introduced into a resistant weed problem back in 2015 when some custom grain harvesters came in and contaminated. So working with weed specialists at U of A, working with different chemistries, trying to figure out how to work with that because Roundup is no longer effective on it. And which has been challenging, and excuse me. And another big consideration is knowledge, is doing any kind of a pesticide treatment, whether it be insecticide or herbicide, is quite challenging because you have a neighborhood that has a lot of sensitive growth in it. Then you have a school. Then you have a wildlife refuge, the ducks, and which water is very sensitive to that. And then you go over a little bit further and you have a growery there, which is human consumption, which is very sensitive. Then you have human care products. Then you have a church, and then you have a house right across the field road. So the whole area is very, very sensitive, and lots of rules and regulations that go along with it. And I'm aware of all these rules because I've been there so long. And I think in this evaluation process that I think I'm a tremendous benefit to the city. I have a track record of showing a bunch of benefits to the city. And as the city moves forward in all this development that's taking place and the affluent plans they have and so on, we're going into uncharted territory. And so I'm a firm believer the city's best interest would be somebody that's very familiar with how that system works and can work with it. Crop rotation play a big part because you have a bigger inflow in the wintertime than you do summertime, and it's a responsibility. You have to run water whether it's raining or not. And then the current lease was all proposed by the city, the dollar figures and terms and extensions, that was all city motivated and driven. And so we've had a very good relationship. And then even when my lease terminated on December 31st of this year, I continued to take care of the effluent water while you're going through this exercise to try to determine whether you want to reallocate the lease to somebody else. And on this proposal paper that which we all got, there's 4 line items that are all going to be considered. And I think the 4th one, benefit to the city of Coolidge, nobody can hold a candle to what the knowledge I have and what I have done in the past, whether it be in town or baseball fields, or I've spent a life here. That operation has been part of my livelihood for 20 years. And so I do ask the council to consider very heavily what my contribution is to the city and what I might be able to bring to the table as you go through this uncharted territory. You're trying to do a recharge program, but what if you run in, there's a lot of things that go haywire.
Totally understandable, and the other gentlemen, the other two gentlemen that actually put a bid in aren't here to discuss what they bring to the table either. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Bartlett, and we'll take it into consideration.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
So item 13 is consider a bid, award a bid to RPT Farms and Mark Poe to lease 322.7 acres of city-owned farmland surrounding wastewater treatment plant. Who has that?
I'll take it. Vice Mayor Hudson and members of the council, first of all, let me just say, and I'll start by following up what Bruce Bartlett just said. He's been a good friend of the city and a partner of the city for many, many years, as he stated. He's run the operation. Without his help out there, we'd have trouble at our wastewater treatment plant. We have to find a place to put our effluent, our Class C effluent. And the map up here, for everybody's benefit, shows the city farmland, which is 322 acres. I think Mr. Bartlett, when he proposed his lease, he said 288 of it is farmable. Don't question that. There's roads and other things that you can't farm. But as you can see, we have a purple line that comes down all the way down to Randolph out of the wastewater treatment plant. And one day, I'm hopeful that we don't have to put any effluent on this farmland, that effluent will be distributed to the south on other farmland, and we can begin to get a long-term storage credit. And we heard a little bit about that in an earlier conversation tonight on the presentations, which has a lot of value to the city and to the future of our wastewater treatment plant in terms of revenue and revenue streams. But where we are, we went to the council on December the 14th, and we had recommended the approval of a lease with Bartlett & Bartlett Farms, knowing that his lease was going to expire at the end of December. Council gave city staff direction to put this out for bid. Go out and get proposals, which is what we did. We did receive 3 proposals. They're all in your packets. Mr. Mark Poe actually bid correctly. His bid was on the 322.7 acres at $200 per acre for a total bid of $64,540. Mr. Bartlett, knowing what he knows about the farm, bid higher per acre, but he only bid on 288.3 acres, which was not what was in the proposal. The proposal said 322.3 or whatever it was acres. His bid came in at $60,117. And then Mike Bagnall with Shredden Farm, he bid $115 per acre. He also, I guess he must have done some research, but he bid on 288 acres of farm, not 322, but his bid came in well under the other two at $33,120. I believe that Mr. Bartlett certainly has all the experience, great experience. I believe he knows more about this farm than any of the other 2 bidders, but I do believe that they're qualified. I mean, they all are. He's been 3 generations, I believe, 3 generations of farming in his family. I think Mr. Poe in his proposal said that he's been farming here for 40-some years. They're very good farmers. God bless our farmers. I think the world of them. But we have come back to you with the bids that were brought into us. Our recommendation, knowing what we know, is a high bid. I couldn't make really a distinction on farming experience. I don't think there's any question Mr. Bartlett would know more about this particular farm and our pumps and other things. But I don't think that that's something that someone couldn't learn.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, I would just like to make a statement. In our packet, we did not receive the bids or the bid tab sheet. No, we did not.
I was there. I looked at it today.
Okay. We did not get those. So I tried calling you. I tried calling Norma because I did not get that. Now, I apologize. I've been out camping and I could see just part of this stuff, but I could not open any actual documents. Now, let me finish, Rick.
Okay.
So all that I could see was the discussion that covered the amounts that the individuals put in.
Right.
So you know, we don't operate like this. Our city, when you put out stuff, we should get all the documents.
Well, I understand, and I'm sorry that that didn't showed up on everything that we attached to the minute track. So if you didn't get it, I apologize, but I repeated exactly what's on this sheet in the staff report. The amounts are exactly what's on this sheet. There's no difference between what's on this sheet and what's in your discussion item. No
We
difference.
still should have gotten copies of their bids.
Oh, the bids were there. Their bids were there. They
No, I didn't get them.
I
Were
wasn't able to either.
Were you able to?
I was not able to.
Nobody was.
No one asked that, but I mean, they were showing up on the minute track that I was looking at, so I didn't realize that you didn't have them until tonight. Sorry. Didn't know that. But no one asked for those either. I mean,
I tried.
okay, did you get them? Okay.
Yeah. It didn't pull up on mine, but I emailed Sienna, and she did email me back right away. And gave me
I'll
a
have to
copy.
find out why this didn't attach, what the glitch was in the system.
So,
Hi,
would you?
may I just, I'm Thonetta Bartlett, and I would just like to say something about Thonetta Bartlett.
Can you spell
And I would just like to
can you
say,
spell your first
when
name?
you spoke of farming, we know basically every farmer in Pinal County. And
Can you just spell your first name? So we get it correct?
THONETTA. And you made a couple of mistakes, actually, is farming isn't just farming. When Bruce Bush took over the farm, it was not even in compliance with the state of Arizona water laws. He had to do several things to bring it into compliance, and he could explain that to you a lot better than I can. But when you're dealing with affluent water and where those crops go, you can't even feed them to a dairy cow, because when it processes and goes through her milk, you can't put it on the shelf for human consumption. There are so many things when you are dealing with affluent water. These other farmers have never done that in their lives. There's one farmer in Pinal County that's farmed affluent water for over 20 years. He's sitting right there. Not one other farmer in this county has that experience, except for the Weddle kid. He leased from the city of Eloy for approximately 3 years, so he has a little understanding. But they quit that.
Okay, ma'am, you did not fill out a request for the address.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I just don't want somebody to say something that's wrong and have them impress a whole room full of people to make a decision on somebody's livelihood when they're making a very big mistake.
I totally understand, ma'am.
It's more of a serious subject than just farming.
What's the council's pleasure on agenda item 13?
So I have something to say. So I don't agree with how this all transpired. I'm looking at it from like a tenant's point of view. So Mr. Bartlett has been our tenant for 20 plus years, and he has given his own money to get our land, our city-owned land, up to par to where it needs to be. He didn't have to do that. He could have signed the lease and realized what he got into and did very little until the lease agreement was over. And then as far as the rent goes, again, looking at it as a tenant. So when the market goes up, the landlord goes to the tenant and says, hey, you got 30 days and I'm going to raise the rent because the market's going up. So we never did that to Mr. Bartlett. So now we decide that, wow, we're way under market. And we're just going to, I feel like we are pulling the rug from his feet out of nowhere. And we didn't go to him and say, hey, we did some research and the market is up and we're going to have to raise your rent. We didn't do that to him. Instead, we said, hey, thanks for pouring all of your own money into our land to get it up to where it needs. And now we're going to open it up to other bids. And then the top bidder, so Mr. Bartlett, when you do look at the bid prices, so he is willing to go up higher than market, not as high as the top bidder, but it's a $4,000 difference. So in my opinion, it would be an act of greed to take the new proposal for $4,000 when this gentleman has put his own personal money, his blood, sweat, and tears into our city-owned property for 20-plus years, and for us to say, well, because you came $4,000 under, we're going to go ahead and just, again, put you in a hardship and give it to this new person for $4,000. In my opinion, that's an act of greed for $4,000. He's willing to pay a difference of $37,000 more a year. He's willing to do that because he recognizes that he was under market, but that wasn't his fault. What tenant do you know that's going to go to the landlord and say, hey, the market's going up, raise my rent? Nobody's going to do that. So that was on the city. The city never went to him and say, hey, this research market's going up, we're raising your rent. So in my opinion, shame on us for pulling, again, like I said, the rug from under his feet and saying, hey, thanks for everything you did the last 20 years and all your own money you put in, but we're going to go ahead and open it up to somebody else. I don't think that, I don't agree with this.
Thank you, Tatiana.
And
I agree.
I feel like born and raised in this community, I want to think that the citizens of Coolidge are also not greedy people.
Vice Mayor Hudson, I'd like to just make a clarification so the public doesn't misunderstand what was just stated. The lease didn't allow for us. The lease that he's had for all those years with the 5 renewals did not allow for us to raise the market rent. It had built-in CPI adjustments to it, but we couldn't just go in there and start raising the price. So there's not an issue. But when we came back to the council in the middle of December and said, let's just extend this lease for another year while we figure out some of this other stuff, council said, no, go out and let's get bids. Maybe there's other people that would like to bid. Maybe the market is better. And apparently it is because it's coming in quite a bit higher. But we're just kind of going along with what the original lease said, what the council direction was in the middle of December, and come back with just a recommendation, and you can choose what you want to do with that recommendation.
Yeah, and I just want to point out again that it's not always all about money. It's a $4,000 difference from the top bidder. And in my opinion, we have to look at everything that Mr. Bartlett has already poured in for 20-plus years and $4,000.
Dennis, what's the legality with this?
Pardon me?
What's the legality with this? Is there any legal? If we decline to accept the bid from RPT Farms, do we have anything legal could happen against us?
Well, I think members of council, if you want my legal advice, I think we should go into executive session. So if the council wants to go into executive session, I'm more than happy to give you my legal advice.
Okay. I need a motion.
Move to go into executive session.
I'll second that.
Okay, and a motion and a second. Okay, the city council come back out of executive session. City council meeting's back in session. So what's the council's pleasure on item number 13?
Vice Mayor, I would like to table item number 13 and 14 until all of the council members have an opportunity to actually review the submitted bid proposals and to consider the bullet point number 4, the benefit to the community. We got to hear from Mr. Bartlett tonight, so we think it's only fair that we give the other 2 bidders an opportunity to come forward. And Mr. Bartlett, if you want to join them at the next meeting as well, you can have another opportunity to speak while the other 2, if they choose to come and share.
That'd be a month from now?
No, it's
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
10 o'clock here.
So there's been a motion made.
Second.
So there's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Since item 13 and 14 have been tabled, we'll go into reports from city council member and staff. Mr. Daniels?
Nothing to report.
Ms. Marietta?
I also have nothing to report.
Mr. Navarro?
I had the opportunity to join our lovely vice mayor here with the grand opening at the Coolidge Cleaners. Glad to see that they actually kept the name. I do appreciate that. So while we sat there and talked to them, we ran down the laundry list of stuff that they do over there: alterations, wedding dress restoration, dry cleaning, everything that they do. I really look forward to them being successful here. Other than that, I have nothing.
I apologize for not attending that. I was out of town. As usual, I like to thank all of our city staff. I would like to thank Mr. Renter, his Public Works Street Department, for the great job that they are doing on the streets on the west side of the boulevard from Pima to Wilson. I know that the citizens are very excited about that, and it's long overdue. So thank you.
I would like to just thank Free Fresh for coming out with a semi-truckload full of 1,500 food boxes that were distributed Saturday. We had a great number of volunteers that were out there at Kenilworth Sports Complex, and we actually got rid of all 1,500 boxes. Some even distributed some of these food boxes to other areas where people couldn't come and pick them up. I personally went out and delivered some in the Randolph community with my son and my daughter-in-law. So it was a great civic event, good thing for needy families, families that have need or a hand up. So that's it.
I also attended the ribbon cutting with Councilman Navarro, and they did a lot to the front of the building. It looks great. I'm glad that we do have a dry cleaner here in town. It's unbelievable, 12,000 people in this town. We couldn't have supported a dry cleaner. So if you're listening out there, please support them. I know everybody has a time in their life that they need a suit pressed or a shirt or pants or something mended. So please support them. And the citizens of Coolidge, go out and drive around the city of Coolidge and see what is going on. I mean, you got the street works, the street repairs that we've been doing, the program that we have right now. You have the housing that is just phenomenal amount of housing that's coming in. You can figure about 3.5 people per household. So you just count them rooftops and see how many people are coming into the city of Coolidge. And it's only going to get bigger and better. With Nicola and all the other support services that will be around with them, I think everything that's coming down the line with the city of Coolidge is a great place to live and raise a family and take pride in it. And that's all I have. So I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Second. Close the meeting. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?